only big fighter that can punch like lightning and is menacing in his approach in the Terry Lawless camp, you'd be wrong. There's another one, and his name is Gary Mason.
Seconds out.
These are two very large gentlemen indeed, particularly the man in white, Gary Mason from Wandsworth, who weighs 17 stone 3. And his opponent, wearing black, Denroy Bryan from Swindon, who goes 15.6, which is heavy enough, but he has to concede 25 pounds here to Mason, and Mason is a destroyer, as we've seen 1 or 2 pro fights already. He's another Bruno from the same camp, the Terry Lawless camp. 6 fights so far, Mason in white, and nobody's taken him beyond 5 rounds. In fact, a lot of them have ended rather quicker than that. So Denroy Bryan knows he's up against something a bit destructive here. Mason, born in Jamaica, and Bryan, born in Birmingham, now fights out of Swindon. Bryan's had 10 fights, 4 wins. Mason very highly thought of in the Lawless camp. There's the right, and he's got him, and a following left, and he's gone nose down, and he won't get up from that. He's out for the night, I'm afraid. All over. Paddy Saar, the referee, not even bothering to count and calling the men in quickly, which is right, and we can see it again. These were some punches. Just as Bryan fancied his chance, he was coming in attacking like that. He took a left hook first, which pulled him up short. There's a tremendous right, and then there's one more left to come, and he pitches head first. And I'm afraid he is still out.
I would guess, but what power that man Mason's got. Well, Mason was in business once again this last week. His opponent was an American this time, Charlie Hostetter. On the Bruno bill it was. Let's see it now.
Gary Mason is the other big hitter in the Lawless camp alongside Frank Bruno. Gary Mason with his back to you now against the white American Charles Hostetter from Odessa, Texas, who's making his 2nd appearance in London. He was here in February 1985 at the Alexandra Palace, and he won a 6-rounder then on points against Gypsy Carmen, the southpaw from Ipswich, and he cut Carmen's eye on that occasion. But here he is very, very small indeed against this massive man, Gary Mason, who scales 16 stone 12.5 pounds, and he's almost 2 stone heavier than Hostetter. Charles Tuffy Hostetter, who really has got a job on hand here against the big hitter from Wandsworth. Mason, who's won all his 7 professional fights, he's won them all inside the distance. This is the first time he's had an American opponent, and already there's a mark of blood on Hostetter's face. Mason very steadily building himself a reputation as a really big hitter, and Hostetter's already running into trouble. He's 14 stone 1.25 pounds, Hostetter, and that's very light indeed for a heavyweight these days. They all tend to be 15 and 16 stone. He's only just over the cruiserweight limit. This is scheduled for 8 rounds. Hostetter's got a mark underneath the right eye. Mason goes almost 6 feet 2 inches, so he's got height and weight against this American, and that's a good left. He went to throw a punch, Hostetter, and Mason beat him to it, and there's a good right, and he's on his way out here, and this is very careful and very tough. He's over. Just under 2.5 minutes. Richie Davis counting. Oh, he's only going to... Oh, he's up at 9, but the legs are gone. You can see that. And Richie Davis has stepped in at just over 2.5 minutes of the opening round. He's already marked on the right eye. He doesn't quite know where he is. So the big bombs of Mason have told yet again. Well, the big punches of Mason always looked like beating this man. What a right hand that was. That was some bomb. And he had no escape and no chance from this moment. Giving away almost 2 stone against a big hitter. It was never on.
I tell you, the British heavyweight picture's not looking bad at the moment, and I should think that Mason and Bruno have to be very careful, with each other, I mean, when they're sparring in the Terry Lawless gym. Went into the ring here a little earlier tonight, also defending an unbeaten record. Now, he is a big man, and his name is Gary Mason, and he does a lot of training with a certain man called Frank Bruno. So it's Gary Mason, round 1, start of the fight, in fact, against Rod Smith, who comes from the United States.
Round 1.
Well, the battle of giants here. Gary Mason in the white trunks. 17 stone 7.5. He is getting a big lad, and he's almost 2 stone heavier than the American Rod Smith from Eugene, Oregon. Smith scaled 15 stone 9 today, which is no mean weight, but he's conceding nearly 2 stones. Oh, that's a useful right from Gary Mason, whom we are now calling Bruno Mark II, because he's coming up in the Bruno camp, and he's got a very similar sort of record to Frank's in Frank's earlier days. In other words, 100% pro record, Mason. 15 fights, 15 wins. And if he throws a few more right hands like that one just now, it'll be 16 before too long. Well, Rod Smith from Eugene, Oregon is 31 years old and hasn't been a pro all that long considering his age. Oh, over he goes. He threw one himself and took a perfect counter punch. And we're only just over a minute into the fight. Well, that's a sample of the way Gary Mason can punch. He puts all his beef behind it. And another right. Over he goes for the second time. 120 into the contest. He's up too soon. And he needed a longer rest than that. Again, I think this is going to be stopped in the first round. It's all over. It is stopped, and the time is 1:34 on my watch. And Rod Smith of Eugene, Oregon, suffers his 7th defeat in 21 fights. And Gary Mason does another 1-round job. That's his 7th in 1 round in his 16 pro fights. Bruno Mark II. Comes from the same town, Wandsworth, as Frank. So there he is. Only a brief look at him, but plenty of him to look at.
Ladies and gentlemen, the referee stopped the contest after 1 minute, 34 seconds of round 1.
It was 1:34.
Smith was unable to defend himself. Mason is the winner.
Now we can see what happened here again. Here's the first knockdown coming up.
And a sympathetic hand for the loser.
Smith trying to advance, left and a right, and then a big thumping left hook to the top of the head. He survived that one. And that is a good right hand, isn't it? Oh. Well, he got up from that as well, but he got up too quickly, and seconds later, it was all over in 1 minute and 34 seconds. Not, by the way, Mason's fastest win. He had one in 48 seconds in January '85.
He's certainly some puncher, and he's unbeaten.